So now we've finally gotten the flippers. Up to this point in the franchise, the swimming controls have been pretty, finicky, let's say. So let's see if this game improves on that. I hate these enemies because at this point in the game you can only attack them from the back, which can be made easy if you use the Rock's Feather, but it's still pretty annoying to deal with. And I really don't like this puzzle because it's different for every playthrough. It is randomized. You step on one tile and then it shows you the next tile that you're supposed to stand on. And you have to memorize that. You pretty much have to write down what this puzzle told you to do so that you know what to do in the water Tektite room. And I don't really like that. It's not like, because when I was following the guide, it told me a different thing to do than I had to do, you know? Well, these things aren't really Tektites, they don't jump around. They're more like water spiders, I guess. So, basically, because of the random nature of this puzzle... See, I was doing what the guide said, and nothing was happening. Because of the random nature of this puzzle, doing exactly what I did will not fix the puzzle for you. You have to memorize or write down what you're told to do in the previous room. So I guess it's supposed to be different for every playthrough, replayability and all that, but I don't see how having the puzzle be different every time really adds much to the game. Yeah, you're better off using the Pegasus boots to dash under those guys. And I find this to be a pretty tricky puzzle. Because you're right here, you can't make him fall down until you're close enough to him. So you've got to... And if you don't jump at exactly the right time on that ladder, then you'll fall instead of jumping. So you've got to make him jump, and then jump off him. But you gotta be quick about it, or else he'll go down. So now you've got the Nightmare Key. And I think Nightmare Key sounds a lot cooler than Boss Key or Big Key. Unfortunately, they can never really call it the Nightmare Key ever again, because this game has nightmare enemies. So they have to call it the Nightmare Key. So that key that fell into a hole a while ago, that's where you get it. And there's some chests that you can only get with the flippers. The swimming controls in this game, well, you're pretty slow, but they're still a lot better than Link to the Past. It's not like I have a really slippery momentum this time around. I don't really feel like tapping the A button rapidly is doing anything to make me go faster. I love how you swim in the side-scrolling areas, though. You can mash the A button with the Rock's Feather equipped to jump and go up really quickly. And I like how you can fight Cheep Cheeps with your sword. Link is actually better at underwater sections than Mario is. This is the easiest boss in the game. In fact, when he's rising up, you can charge up your spin attack to deal 2 hits. And I was pretty relieved that this boss was so easy because I found this dungeon to be kind of hard, confusing. So here you go. The Surf Harp. This game's kind of unique that you're collecting musical instruments as MacGuffins this time around, instead of, like, you don't play the musical instrument. You just collect it. There's a lot of hint giving in this game. Like, you're told to go to the bay, and then later on you meet the owl who tells you to go to the bay. And there's also a phone guy, Grandpa Rura, or Rira, I guess. Okay, I have a question for you. This song sounds very familiar to me. I feel like I have heard it before, outside of this game. Where does this song come from? What is this a reference to? Because I'm certain it's a reference to something, but I just don't know what it is. Like that sounds extremely familiar, but I don't know what it's from. Is it a pop culture reference? I don't know. It's pretty intuitive that you can get a piece of heart there because it's an empty room. I mean, obviously there's gotta be something there. And you dive straight in the center. So again, of course you're gonna look for it. This ghost follows you around until you go to a certain place, and he tells you where to go, which is nice. And yeah, you move pretty slowly in the water. Like, I'm mashing the A button, and aside from that little dash that I did there, yeah, you move pretty slowly. But at least you don't have slippery controls where you constantly keep on moving even though you don't want to. There were actually plans for a 2-player mode in Link's Awakening, which included a boss that one player would have to throw the other player at. I think that this concept got transferred over into Four Swords, a multiplayer Zelda game. Honestly, I don't know why they keep trying the whole multiplayer Zelda game concept, at least on handhelds, because outside of Japan you are not going to find anyone that will be able to play the game with you, unless they do a sort of online multiplayer like Luigi's Mansion 2 did. And Four Swords Adventure almost got it right with the multiplayer, but they force you to use a Game Boy Advance for every player, and every player also had to have a Game Boy Advance GameCube connector. And that was the only way you could play multiplayer. Why? Why can't you just use the different controllers that you had and play multiplayer that way? That would have been infinitely better. I mean, they could have at least had that as an option, but no. And they wonder why that game didn't really do as well as the other titles. And the fact that it was a top-down Zelda game on a console, and people, I guess, whined and bitched about that because the graphics weren't as good and stuff. And so they never tried that again. I don't think the multiplayer Zelda concept is bad all by itself. It can be pretty fun. Like, I've heard people can have fun with Four Swords Adventures. Or it's Adventure. They just need to make it so that it's actually, you know, playable for people outside Japan. Because Japan has a very high population density, so of course they can do it. Well, we can't. And plus it's a higher crime rate in America and stuff, so we can't really be walking outside having our handhelds out in the open like that. And this raft minigame is annoying. I was following a guide, I knew what to do, but even then I would constantly rage quit and do the minigame again because the currents, you're fighting against the currents, but you have to fight against the currents in exactly the right time and exactly the right way to take the path that you want. I wanted to go up from there. I wanted to get the rupees up there, but I couldn't. Like, that really sucks. Yeah, see, I rage quit there. Because I wanted to get as many rupees as I could. I don't know if the whole cheap cheat works with the raft minigame. I haven't heard anything about it, so it probably doesn't. And here's how you get to the higher route. The music here is kind of repetitive, I guess. In Zelda 2, it's actually possible to destroy a palace as if you had beaten it, without actually beating it. What you do is that you use the fairy spell while you're off screen. And remember the Glitch Town glitch in Zelda 2? Well, that's basically what you're doing. You use the fairy spell while you're off screen. But you do it in a dungeon, and so it teleports you, but the consequence of that is that you won't be able to get into the Great Temple because you destroy the dungeon without returning the crystal to where it should be taken. Yeah, I hate this minigame. And behind me was a waterfall that you can't go into to get anything from. That kind of goes against your gaming instincts. Because you're like, well, there's a waterfall, there's gotta be treasure behind it. Nope. The world of Link's Awakening seems to be more technologically advanced than the one that Link was in. Because, like, you have phones, you have dial telephones that someone calls you on, and you have an actual crane game that you can play. I think there is actually a trick to that where you wait until the item that you want is on the northeasternmost corner of the moving floor, and then you have the crane positioned so that it's on the northwesternmost corner, and then you release it, and then you're guaranteed to get the item. I didn't know about that trick though. I guess it's a timing thing. I went into the wrong house by mistake. So now you can further the trading sequence this way. The trading sequence was actually based off of the straw millionaire folktale. It involves someone getting rich by doing enough trades starting out with a piece of straw. And there's a more modern version of that where a guy starts out with a paperclip and he ends up with like a house with multiple different floors on it. I think 5 stories or something. Like, that's pretty cool. Like, the trading sequence of this game is actually based off something. I think there are trading sequences in later Zelda games. This is the only one I can really think of off the top of my head. But the later ones aren't as mandatory as this one is. Another intuitive seashell place. Like, I like when they're put in intuitive places instead of places where you need a guide to figure out where they are. Because you're probably going to find that screen on your own. It can be kind of tricky to jump over 2 holes at once without equipping the Pegasus boots. It's not that big of a deal though. It just sometimes it requires multiple tries. The ghost makes a kind of annoying sound every time that he spawns in. It keeps on happening over and over and over again. This passive-aggressive bat, he actually has a name. He's called the Mad Batter. I guess it's a pun based off Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatters actually have a kind of cool story to them where, well, not really cool. It's kind of depressing actually, because hat makers in real life, back in the olden days, oh great, screen flashing, yeah, that doesn't hurt my eyes. But anyways, hat makers back in the olden days, they were around mercury a lot, and so they would sort of go insane from mercury poisoning. That's why they had Mad Hatters. I call him the passive-aggressive bat, but he's really not passive-aggressive. It's not really the right term for it. He just seems to go from passive to aggressive to passive to aggressive. Like a split personality or something. But as I pointed out in Link to the Past, that's not really how split personalities work. He doesn't have PTSD, and it's not like his one personality is completely unaware of the other. And you can actually have like up to 16 different personalities. He only has 2. Why does he talk in sentence fragments? Like he barely talks at all. And I do a lot of editing for this playthrough. Like, this playthrough would be a lot longer if I didn't do all this editing. It's only like 15 or so parts. Martha's Bay. You wouldn't really expect that to be the name of a bay. Like, who is Martha anyways? Do we ever meet Martha? Is Martha related to that ghost? So now we have the cameraman again, and he's kind of weird. I mean, how exactly does he know where you are? How does he get to where you are? Because you have to go through a monster-filled overworld to get to where you are. And it's not like he has a sword or anything, so how does he manage to get to where you are? And like, how does he always know where you are? I guess that's sort of the video game convention with photographers. I think this game came out before Earthbound did, so they actually did the cameraman first. Or maybe they didn't, I don't know. This is referencing the whole phenomenon where it was in the early days of the internet, people would give out false photographs of themselves to their pen pals to trick them into thinking that they're more attractive than they really are. I don't disapprove of the goat woman for that, because, you know, like, if she wants to find love, then fine. Although, she's pretty much, like if they actually meet in person, that's gonna be the end of the relationship. And I don't really see the point of having a relationship if, you know, it's just gonna, like, they don't have to know what you look like. But, like, if you actually meet, then he's not gonna recognize you, or he's gonna be mad at you. But I guess if they, like, have intelligent conversations and they support each other and stuff, then it's fine. Yeah, stealing can be kind of difficult sometimes. And again, I had so little money at that point that I pretty much was forced to steal the bow, because the bow is mandatory for beating the game. You can't beat the game without getting the bow. So again, the whole shop money crunch thing works too well. Because they overcharge you so much, but they allow you to steal from the shop. Oh, I hate the seashell, because if you destroy the bush from anywhere but the north part of it, the seashell will fall into the ocean, and it'll be lost forever. How is that good design? So you have to know to break the bush from the north, because that way it won't fall into the water. Who thought that was a good idea? It's not very good design at all, that you can have something be lost forever. Don't just hate when that happens. So close! Also, there's actually a seashell you can get from coming here if you have 10 seashells, exactly. So, it's not just the 5 seashell that I missed out on, it's also the 10th one. And the guy didn't tell me about that 10th one. Like, I went through the very beginning of the game, not really following the guide all that much, and so I guess I have that to blame for not having the amount of seashells that I was told I would have by the guide. Because I guess I missed out on 1 seashell, and the seashell I probably missed out on was the 5th one. It's like, it sucks, there are seashells that can be lost forever. So I guess this isn't a true 100% run, but it's close enough. In the Japanese version of the game, the necklace is actually a bra. You can understand why they censored it. Here it just makes her look like she's so vain that she doesn't want to go out with her necklace. Like she's Flurry in Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. She actually jumps out of the water 2 more times after that. I ended the recording too early, so I didn't show it off though. And this is another photo that was kind of annoying to activate, because he's swimming around here, but he's not actually getting the picture activated to be taken. So I had to dive yet again. I think this was the Zelda game that introduced diving, actually. Here's another quirky moment. Okay, after he comes out of the water, how does he still think that he's a fish? Well, he doesn't, I guess, because he calls him Photo Guy. I guess he was making fun of him when he called him the big one. And the picture of the fisherman there was pretty realistic looking. Like, I was impressed by the way it looks. And the Game Boy graphics can actually have some pretty good looking animated pictures. So, see you in the next part for the next dungeon.